Welcome to Node Mode. I am your host, Depeche Node, and this is the NFT podcast on digital art. We talk with artists, OG collectors, and the smartest people in the space about all things NFTs. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors, and the NFT space is incredibly risky, so always do your own research, please. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. We want to keep spreading that good news that is digital art. Today, I am joined by perhaps my favorite person in all of NFT land. He started off as a sophisticated art speculator, turned into the founder of an epic crypto gaming company, and has now risen to become a king. King Kix, welcome to the show, my liege.
Dude, absolute pleasure to finally be on Node Mode. Thanks for having me. Got so much love for you as well. So really excited.
Dude, especially after this morning's Twitter Spaces, I think we all just wanted to kneel and just like bow down to your take on personal responsibility in this space, man.
Yeah, first of all, it's been wild these last just the bear market in general is wild. It's like it's there's infighting, there's people trying to keep stuff together like the glue, there's drama, money to be made still with like what feels like the rest of the world burning down around this insulated NFT community.
Yeah, I think like you and I share a similar thesis actually on that. Like one of my like theses for why NFTs are going to survive is because they're actually fun. Like in the last bear markets, all crypto died because when you can just trade a ticker and there's nothing else going on, like who cares about, FC4 or whatever that crypto new coin is that went to zero, right? Like, and in NFT land, it's like, hey, well, first of all, at least we got pictures. And then second of all, there's like interesting stuff that's happening. And so I'm hoping that like I literally do think that there's a scenario that NFTs are what pull us out of the bear. Like I think that's like a reasonable like optimistic take, I should say.
Totally. And there's so much innovation happening that there's going to be like interesting opportunities that you're probably not going to easily find anywhere else. But and yeah, maybe it's going to be art, maybe it's going to be gaming. I mean, everyone loves to pump their own bags, right? But it's certainly going to be something.
Oh, for sure. So I legitimately do like I want to learn about your backstory because I don't know anything. All I
Yeah.
know here, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint a picture of what I think your past was like.
Yeah.
So I think Nick Nooper, born on the East Coast and rose through the ranks quickly as a child. Very very bright, very intelligent. Was in always did very well in school, but didn't really show it. He was that guy, like very happy and popular. Went to college. I don't know if you went to like an Ivy League, but maybe like a step down or very close. And you were just like the king of the frat, whatever frat you belong to. Like you just ran that house. And like everybody just gathered around Kix, and this is the way that you live. After college, you went and you got a job somewhere at like a good financial firm, but it wasn't enough for you. So then you decided I'm gonna go start my own thing, and you started a business, you sold it, and then you started Crypto Raiders. That is the image I have of you in my mind. How close am I?
I love it. I mean, I would like to think my family would maybe be prouder if it was closer to what you said. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I would like to consider myself like very very passionate about like learning. So like through school, like I had good grades up until like high school, and then I started getting bored and distracted and stuff like that. And I would do good on tests, but I wouldn't turn in assignments and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into like one of the greatest schools, but I went to University of Tennessee. So pretty
Nice.
cool school. We just beat Alabama, so that was fun. But I actually dropped out because I don't know if you know, but man, they make it really easy to take out student loans when you're 18 years old. So I was just racking up student loans, more money than I needed, just so I could like buy some clothes and pay for drinks and stuff like that. And then I realized how much debt I was in, and I went into a semester of college, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take enough out for tuition and like 1 month's rent. Ended up like being late on paying rent and overdrafting my bank account like 40 times, but it kind of pushed me against the wall and like got me to get into like SEO online back in like 2010.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I ended up doing a startup called like Drip Feed Blast, and we would basically build like backlinks for websites. Like basically, like forums back in the day, you used to be able to create a forum profile, and you could like put your link in like your like forum profile, you could put a link, and Google actually considered those links like low quality, but like enough of them you could like rank websites. We built this like software to help people rank websites. So I had a cool like little stint there, then moved out to California, did some like SEO consulting, wasn't making much money, and then ended up partnering up with these guys that was running this company called Electric Styles, and it was basically a light up clothing company. It was super fun. Did that for like 3 years. Had a lot of fun doing that. Then I got into Facebook ads, and then I got into crypto in like 2020. And so when I got into crypto, I was just buying Bitcoin and buying Ethereum. I wasn't doing anything crazy. And I never felt like I was really good at like DeFi or altcoins, any of that stuff, right? So like I tried it here and there. I just always lost money, dude. I would just get hosed. I'd be like buying the top and all this stuff. But then in January 2021, one of my buddies, Mike, his name's Chang Lu, on Twitter, he posted something about Beeple, and like he asked in this crypto group I was in, he asked for them to create like a Slack channel about NFTs, and he just started talking about all these NFTs going on in Nifty Gateway, and so that was like how I got into NFTs was in January on Nifty Gateway. And I have some fun like stories that'll make you crack up probably.
Dude, that's amazing. Okay, so you were like a digital marketer then, like you were deep in the ad space, the SEO space.
Yes, when I did the SEO startup, I was on a forum called Wicked Fire in 2010, and they were talking about Bitcoin when it was dollars, and people were like, "This is going to be the future." Like, so there's a lot of people probably for that forum retired. I thought it was dumb. I was like, digital money, makes no sense to me. Yeah, just absolutely crazy generational wealth just at my four tips. Then I didn't buy into it until 10 years later.
Yeah, you didn't say fingertips, you said four tips. That's a very interesting word, dude. Yeah. That's like that's
together sometimes.
Dude, I love that. So what was the first what was your introduction was through Nifty Gateway? Did you start off like buying editions of artists or okay.
Editions. And so my first buys, you're gonna love this. My first two buys, a Hackatow open edition and a Jose Delbo open edition. Both of those, from like that mint to the peak, probably like 30, 40x, like insane stuff, right? Like that. I think that they were like $1,200, and like the Jose maybe went up to like 10,000, and like the Hackatow maybe went even further. But I was so new at it that I bought in the open edition, and I try to flip them for like $150 profit. And I can't figure out why no one will buy it. Obviously not thinking anyone that wanted it just bought it in the open edition, right?
Like they just had it. Yeah.
I start panicking, and I'm like dropping, the price on these things. And I think I sold both of them for like a slight loss. Like, you know what I mean? That was like my first get in of like being like, okay, buy. Okay, here we go. Like hot potato. Buying and selling. But then on Nifty Gateway, I slowly started kind of understanding what I was doing, and it was all art, and that was like so fun. Is because like we didn't have to there wasn't this narrative around the team or what they're building or what the roadmap was. Like you were literally just trading JPEGs. You're like, I like this artist, I like this art piece. So like I own 2 Lotus trains from Mad Dog Jones at one point. That run, loved Mad Dog Jones, like favorite artist, like just absolutely loved his aesthetics. I own stuff like Fili Podas had this like rusty art piece that was really cool. I traded everything under the sun on Nifty Gateway from about like January to early April.
Interesting, dude. I love that. The story on open editions is such a great lesson in tokenomics. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, when everybody just was able to buy what they wanted, there's no secondary right away because they all just got it. Like it was open. Anybody can get it.
This is why I'm such a decently average trader now, because I've learned those lessons.
That is so epic. Oh, I actually do want to get your take. Like, I ask this all the time because I still have a hard time wrapping my head around edition sizes. Like, it's really hard for me when there's an artist. What are your thoughts when it comes to editions? Like, in general, whether it's a small edition or a big edition, do you have like any rules that you follow now when it comes to like your thoughts on buying editions?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Like, I'm definitely not as good at NFT art as like in trading, at least, than I was in January. I think like maybe generally probably like the strength of the artist can make a difference. I also think if it's like a profile pick or art piece, like generally art, right, should be probably lower editions, right, than profile picks. But like, I definitely think that there's like I prefer lower edition stuff, but not maybe one out of ones because one out of ones are so illiquid. Although if you have a longer time horizon, it's great. But like, I'd rather like own like instead of an X copy one out of one, I'd rather own like an Afterburn, right, or a Guzzler. You know what I mean?
But you wouldn't, because the next copy 101 is worth like $1 million.
I
So
can't
but yeah.
exactly. No, obviously I could take that angle now because I just literally can't afford that. But like Digi Daigaku's like big in gaming, right? And they did this like 2000 collection, which was like super interesting in a bear market, right? Because it like allowed the price of that NFT to appreciate a lot further than it would otherwise. And then Castaways, they did 100 mint, you know what I mean? And that the floor on that's at like 25. And those aren't like the first times at it. Like actually the guy behind Treeverse Loopify, he did like I think it's called like NF trees, and there's a couple of hundred of those. So I think low supply stuff is like very interesting. I think when it comes to like art, I think that I would generally prefer stuff that's like 1,000 or less.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree, and I mean, I even go smaller, right? Like, I'm more comfortable doing like 100 or less, or 50 or less on the edition size. I've gotten burned from a price standpoint on every open edition, right? Like, the even I went in on Max Payne when it was like at its peak. Now it's
I was
50%
very
off.
tempted too. I luckily I sat on my FOMO hands um on that one. But yeah, I mean I think those, but the interesting things about those is that if they can get to a price where like an open edition is very accessible, then like if you think about like when we eventually get to mass market, you could potentially see a little bit more like easier liquidity and still like good like movement up. Like one of my favorite trades during the bull run last year on the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem was anytime Bored Ape Yacht Club pumped, you could just buy Bored Ape Kennel Dogs and they would pump almost the same percentage wise, but you had way more liquidity and it was like cheaper to buy it, right? So like when you're talking
Yeah.
about X copy, right? Like if X copy Max Payne eventually got like if the bear market continues and it went to like 0.35 or like 0.4, let's say some like real low number like that, right? Then like you could buy these and think like X copy is still going to be legit as hell 5 years from now. And next time we go into a bull run, people are going to be priced out of almost every X copy asset except for this one. And so you'll still see like, a 5x or a 10x off of it from the bottom.
Yeah, it looks like to me like the X copy is an exception where the nice thing is at least he's keeping like really good there's still like good volume, right? It's because it's X copy. So this one was more of I wanted to own it, but I totally agree with you. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm looking over at Nifty Gateway. I mean, let's be real. I have not been on here for a long time. We're having the founders on and on node mode soon. But like yeah, like when was the last time you hopped on Nifty Gateway? Like it's been a minute for me. In fact, I didn't actually come through the space with Nifty Gateway, so I very rarely, like hopped on here. But have you checked it out recently at all?
Yeah, I really just being full transparency, I really don't use it at all. I don't know when the last time I made a trade on it. Honestly, it may have been like pack, like circle. Those are, like,
Sorry to hear that with
yeah,
Pack. Yeah.
but I have so much respect for the Nifty Gateway team, and one of the most like innovative things was like you could just use credit cards to like
Right.
buy on there, and like at the time, I think that like onboarded a lot of people who could just pay with credit cards, and then they could like if they made ETH or whatever, then they could transfer the ETH to OpenSea. But like I kind of just like moves with the market, and like once OpenSea like took off volume wise, I just like stuck with that.
That's what I did too. It's just interesting. I mean, I'd be very curious to know like who their audience is, right? Because it doesn't feel like we're necessarily on there a lot. But I wonder who's over there.
And at the
Uh,
back in the day, it was like there was a lot of like they were really dominant in terms of like the top artists like
oh
doing drops
yeah,
on there. And then there was some like competition from like Maker's Place and like the other ones trying to get drops. But like I think like once like the PFP kind of bull run and then like digital land and gaming and stuff like that, all of that stuff on OpenSea, like I just kind of naturally gravitated like towards those things like more than art. But I mean, I could definitely see myself using like Nifty Gateway again, if like if art started making moves and I wanted to get back into it and it was happening there.
Yeah, I think too, like art blocks just took over, right? A lot of the generative stuff just came in and we all got
Suck.
way excited about that. That turned into a massive bubble to kick things off. And yeah, like I fumbled generational wealth just over and over again during that time
I've
period.
lost like 5 ETH on art blocks. Like I'm like the worst art blocks trader of like all time. Just like buying ones that were duds, top buying and stuff like that. I think it really shook my confidence in like art trading.
That's okay. So I want to knowing that like you ended up starting a gaming company. I want to know like the why, like why you started it and how this came to be. And then let's get a little background because I to be totally transparent, dude. It's like I hear you talk. You'll say crypto raiders. I'll be like, yeah, that's Kix's. He's the CEO. And I
Yeah.
know there's dungeons there, and that's all that I know about crypto raiders, dude.
You got a lot of it already. But yeah, so Crypto Raiders started working on it in like late May. We launched in June. And the whole concept was we just wanted to just make like a fun, casual dungeon crawler on the blockchain that you could, run dungeons, get loot, level up, like sort of like a, RuneScape or Diablo vibe. And at the time, like the I was talking to my buddies and, like we saw lots of potential for crypto gaming, and it's very obvious now, but at the time it was really like Axie Infinity was like starting to like get a ton of attention. But like I played like Zed Run in April and May, and like Zed Run, it's not so big now, but it was actually like really like pretty big back then. But there was like no other games that you could like really play, right? And so like our idea was like if we have like a simpler kind of concept, and we put a lot of passion into the art, but it's like pixel art, but we put a lot of passion into it. We have great artists, as you can see. But we were like, we could with this kind of style game, we could actually get a game live like really, really quickly. And we got a game live like right after the mint, probably 2 weeks after it was good enough to take live, and it was very basic. It has a lot more depth to it now. But yeah, we launched. We like priced the characters at it was either I think it was $20 a pop because we were like, that's like the price of like an indie game on like Steam. So we're gonna,
Yeah,
we wanted to make it like super accessible for people to get in. Um, and since there wasn't like anyone really trying to do like a casual dungeon crawler game on the blockchain, we got a lot of just like kind of grassroots attention. Um, but like we were very much under the radar until like November. We didn't even go full time on this project until November. But like when we launched, our whole thing was like my thesis is that like so many people like use their projects as like cash grabs, and I was lucky that I've like made my money from trading NFTs, so I don't really need to like make my money make like a short-term cash grab like from a project. So with
yeah,
like crypto raiders, we literally just put it all like back into the project. So like literally when we launched, um, it's not like we did one of these mints in the bull market. We got 50 or like $60 million, something like that. Like when we launched with our like simple blockchain game, we maybe minted like 200K worth of revenue. And we got like a full-time artist, we got like a full-time dev, and we just kept kind of like building. But there was like a real gaming meta that like took off in like November through January of like last year into this year. And it was like DeFi kingdoms, and there's projects like Corbata and all of these different things. And that's when like a lot more attention got on our project, and like people became like even more excited about it because like the gaming narrative was like so strong from like November to January of that year. And at the same point in time, that's when like Facebook rebranded their name to Meta. That's when Sandbox and Decentraland took off like rockets, right? So this whole like metaverse gaming narrative was like created between November and January of that year. And that's when we like really scaled things up. So we all went full time on the project. We hired a bunch more devs, a bunch more artists, people to help us like manage the community and stuff like that. We've done like a ton of PvP tournaments and like all sorts of fun things. And even now in the bear market, we still have like a very strong like core audience of people that just like to play the game. And we're just continuing to like we look at this as an opportunity just to like really build, ship, get better as a team. and be ready for when crypto gaming really takes off.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, heaven forbid somebody makes a game that is actually fun, right? That people want to play. So I love that that's your focus. I was actually, not to,
And we're like a AAA game or something like that. You know what I mean? We're
yeah,
not like we're not trying to be that. We're just trying to be like a fun.
yeah. I mean, they're pixels. You know what I mean? Like this is great. It's great pixel art too. I'm noticing though, like Defiance Capital. Is that Arthur Defiance Capital
Yeah,
that's funded by 3AC?
yeah. I'm a cousin's to like Starry Night. Like I'm
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like, have you seen any? I mean, I guess you may not be able to share anything, but it's like there's nothing that they can do, right? They're just sitting there as an investor in your fund. Like, it's just, do you know if you ever have an exit, where does this all end up? Or is Defiance kind of separate enough that it's able to operate on its own?
Yeah, I haven't gotten like the specific details, but like my understanding is that like Defiance is like separate enough. I think that they're doing like a fundraising and they still have lots of like great projects that they've put money into.
Yep.
And I have biweekly calls with like Defiance, so they're very active still.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. So we had a good question in the chat here on let me see if I can find it. Yeah, basically I really wanted to get into this too, like how digital art works in video games in general. This guy's saying, Wolfie wants to know how hard is it to implement and animate all the gear and skins in game? Pretty impressive in his opinion. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's like all sorts of like variations of like art design in games. So like we see a lot these days of like 3D, right? And so they're doing like Blender and all of that jazz, and there's like lots of like modeling and stuff like that. But then, um, eventually, like I think with like 3D, you kind of get good economies of scale. Pixel art is like a little bit easier, but you don't get as good like economies of scale. Like every animation is like hand drawn. You know what I mean? To like get the effect of like motion. And it's like a sprite sheet that is then like compressed into the game. Um, but yeah, we like art is really like big for us, and like the aesthetics is really big for us. If you go to like our Twitter page, you can see like the most recent dungeon. So this is a Halloween dungeon that's coming out, I think, next Wednesday. Um, and so like I love this one. This is, I think, like the coolest like background that we've
This
that
is
we've done
cool.
before. Yeah, and then if you keep scrolling down, we actually did a Ranga special event dungeon, um, where we had it's not like affiliated with Ranga. We just bought NFTs and we made like a dungeon inspired by Ranga that we call the Black Box. If you just keep scrolling a little bit more, I think you'll see it. Yeah, there's one picture of it, and if you go a little bit,
That's
yeah, that
cool.
yeah, so that's like the attack animation. If you go a little bit more, you can see like the black box.
Oh, yeah. That's
Plus
the
that we
Ranga black box, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
inspired by them. We're not, once again, trademark not affiliated with Ranga, whatever you want to say. But yeah, it's just one of the experiments that we're doing with like, trying to integrate more with Web3. And yeah, man, it's been a heck of a journey. I mean, building games is really hard. We've gotten a lot better at it. We've made a ton of mistakes along the road. Like in the bull market, I got super excited and I like had all of these ideas, and at some points we like bit off more than we could chew, and now we're like just trying to like ship and deliver a little bit more quietly. But it's been like an absolutely amazing journey. Like we're just getting started. Like we're going to be here for years to come, so I'm stoked.
Dude, that's cool. So when it comes to like do you basically just have like one artist full time hired to just constantly be cranking this out, or do you have to like it's hard for me, having no background in gaming. I'm like, how much time and how many artists and how much work goes into that?
Like I think we may have like 4 or 5 artists. So we have one like director of art that's like on the team full time, and then the rest are like contractors, so they're getting like paid by the hour. But yeah, it's like the art team, and the art team is going to have to expand further from here, because there's so much, right? So there's like the characters, then there's the animation, then there's like the gear, right? Then there's like other art that we're doing for like icons, like for the classes and the talent trees. Um, so there's like all, and then there's like UI in the game that we're like designing when we launch like new features and all of that. So like so for example, next week when we launch this Halloween dungeon, we're also launching like our next season of content. So there's going to be 4 new dungeons in there as well. So that's like we got to do like the battle scene, we got to do like the walking scene when you're walking through the dungeon for like 4 different dungeons and a special event dungeon. We have to do all of the loot that drops. We have to do all of the attack animations because the bosses often have like custom attack animations. But it's all so much fun. And we have like a great art team that just like really loves making pixel art and they really love working on Crypto Raiders. And that's why I think people like, like really enjoy, and you can see the progression, like from our first dungeon to like the dungeon now, you can just see like the quality continuing to improve.
Dude, that is awesome. And it looks like, yeah, I was just looking, you need to own a Crypto Raider in order to actually play the game. It looks like you got to buy one in order to continue.
Yeah, but like our whole thing always with like
I mean, they're pretty affordable looking at the floor price here.
Yeah,
We can
exactly.
do it.
Exactly. And I mean, they were like much more expensive at like, the peak of the bowl because these things just go, crazy. But like our goal, and we always stated, is like we always wanted this to be like the price of an indie game. So like, 10 or $20. I think we need to get some more player growth. And we're looking at potentially doing some burns on the character supply count because it got a little carried away. It's a little high right now, especially
You're almost at 69,000, the holy number, dude. Look at that.
We should keep it there, right? But yeah, so like that's the thing, is that we've always wanted like the entry into the game to be very affordable, because like my thesis is that like if you look at just traditional gaming, I think it like holds true as well, is that like games need to either be free to play or very affordable to like come in and play. And then things in the game can potentially, usually cosmetics, have like really can have really interesting like prices attached to them by the community. So like one game that I bought, it's now free to play, but you said to buy it, and it's Counter-Strike Go. It's like a first-person shooter, right? And it's like it's free to play, so obviously it's free to get into. But even when you had to pay, it was like $20 to buy the game or something like that. But then like skins, these rare skins that you get in the game, like some of them are worth like $100,000 now these days. It's pretty insane. And so like that's the model that like I always believed in. I never really believed that like long term it makes sense that like crypto games, like you have to buy like a $200 character or a $300 character to get started, right?
Right.
I thought that the economics would work out that like, for example, like Illuvium is going to be like free to play, right? But then like you can buy a pass, and then that lets you like collect NFTs in the game. So then you have to pay for the pass, and then like if you got a rare NFT, maybe those things are worth a lot more money. But yeah, these are just some of like the rarest CS:GO skins of all time. This is like the model that I've always kind of like believed in for Web3 gaming, is that it's going to be really affordable entries, but then there's going to be like cosmetics. And so like in Crypto Raiders, we still have to get mounts in the game. But like once mounts are in the game, we're going to start like having very rare mounts that could drop. And if Crypto Raiders was really popular at a certain point in time, maybe a rare mount like people really want. That's the model that I've always like seen, I think, working really well with Web3 gaming, is when it's very easy for players to get in, but then like certain cosmetics and stuff like that could be like super rare.
Yeah, looking at these, it's like 10 grand a pop for some of this stuff, which is very interesting. I mean, this is a lot of people's thesis for why they even got into NFTs, was stuff like this, right? And now you're creating a marketplace where it can be freely traded. Makes sense. I mean, this thing's up to 40K for whatever this is. I mean, and I think even like the Artifact guys, didn't they start off like as skin designers? I forget for
I remember hearing the exact same kind of thing. I forgot what it was for, but maybe it was CS:GO, maybe it was Valorant or something like that. I just linked you over to Parallel as well. So this was like a very popular NFT gaming project last year. I mean, it's still popular. I think they have like hundreds of millions of dollars. They're building like an on-chain card game, and they had these very rare card backs that people speculated on.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
The idea would be that you could like really flex, and if you sort by highest sold, I mean, something sold for like 200 ETH, 100 ETH, like crazy prices. But a lot of this is just like kind of like flexing like aesthetics, right? Because like you can't make a fun I'm not going to say that, but like a lot of games, especially like card games or like first person shooters, like like in Magic the Gathering, like a good deck, a good deck maybe costs you like $300 to $500, right? Like not that many people could play if a good deck was like $3,000 to $5,000, right? So
Yeah.
there's even good decks you can buy, like red burn decks that are like $80 a pop, right? So like the game is accessible for people to get into. But then like people in Magic the Gathering, they'll have like very rare versions of the cards or lands. So there's people that can play against you and you can be competitive against them with like an $80 deck, but their decks may be worth $5,000 because they have like super rare versions of the cards, right? So like
Yeah.
that's the thing with parallel, right? Like when you think of the digital economy and stuff like that, it's not crazy to think that like some guy wants to flex with like $100,000 one out of one card back, right? And like when you're playing against him, you're just like, holy crap, like look at what that guy has, right?
This is
And a lot
crazy.
of
I mean, look at some of these. It's
cool
like
art.
multiple 100 ETH plus sales on this. I had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
I hopefully they're doing okay, all those buyers during these dark times.
Yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing is like the the mania on some of these things, like parallel, like I think these things minted, like a box was like $50, and one of these things could pop out of it, right? And it was just like in this crazy NFT bull run that people are like, oh, okay, yeah, like a $500,000 for a card pack that makes financial sense to me, but like I still think that the important thing is like that kind of like model I think is going to be like very interesting, right? And there's all sorts of fusions and stuff like that too. Like, what if X copy like released like 10 custom card backs in for parallel, right? Um,
Yeah, hadn't thought about that. Like, yeah, the way the artists could collab with the games.
exactly, on cosmetics, right? Like art and cosmetics could have this like really interesting synergy in Web3, right? Where it's like in like Gabe from Digidaigaku, like he's exploring this with like you got a Digidaigaku skin in Castaways, and you can play Castaways with like your Digi skin. Or for example, maybe if you had a Bored Ape Yacht Club, like you could mint a custom parallel card back that was like Bored Ape Yacht Club themed, but you only can use it if you have a Bored Ape Yacht Club in your wallet, right? Maybe it costs 100 or 200 to mint, right? There's all sorts of ways that like parallel could generate revenue with this, or other projects could collab and generate revenue. Artists could come in. That's why the whole loot thing, like people fell in love with, even though like it may take years for something like that to truly materialize. But like the idea that like anybody could create art for this like decentralized game, right? Like the possibilities are like endless, right? Gremplin creates this like custom character that drops in a game. And I even think some people treat gaming assets as art. If we look at like Kevin from Pixelmon, it's a 3E floor, man. Like people consider that like art. Like it may
Dude,
be
Kevin from Pixelmon is like may end up being one of the most iconic images and art pieces of our time in the space. Like as ridiculous as it sounds.
that for $100,000. I wouldn't be shocked like 10 years from now. You know what I mean? I'm like, fucking, I should have bought a Kevin.
Yeah. The most rare. Yeah, it's like that's actually interesting. I hadn't thought about the idea of, a game as a game. Obvious. This is so obvious. And I don't know why it's taking me this long to realize. Like, obviously, that's why certain skins have value. But like, as a game, gains relevance and becomes, a big deal, then like, obviously, certain assets will become, historic or be considered as like these pieces of art. And I
Yep.
guarantee there's probably, me not being a gamer, but it's like there's probably people that literally frame, pictures of their skins and whatever, and
Oh, totally.
items on their wall. And am I wrong, or is that like a normal thing?
Connection with them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's it. Like with gaming, that's the interesting thing. Like like companies like Blizzard that came up with like this whole Warcraft universe. Like people end up going to conventions dressed up as their favorite characters. Like you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like art and like movie kind of melded together. Um, so yeah, man, I I think the possibilities are really endless. I think that like when you're approaching it like as buyers like you and I are, I think that the most important thing is like to try not get caught up like too much in the hype and like being sober. Like a reality of gaming is that like a lot of games don't have blockbuster successes. A lot of games that even do are only popular for 6 months or a year, right? So like if you buy a rare cosmetic in a game that only lasts 6 months or a year, then there may be no buyers for that cosmetic, right? Like we have like we look at winners, but like if you do play like the Web3 version of Counter Strike Go or League of Legends or Dota, and you get this super rare skin, and that game is popular for 5-7 years from now. Like imagine in 2030, like maybe that cosmetic skin you got is like worth $100,000. That's like pretty sick and wild.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. We got a question here from the chat, Kix. Are you
No,
single?
no, unfortunately, I'm not. Silvo is a super strong community member and actually works with our team as well at Crypto Raiders. She's been around since like early last year when we
Oh,
started. But
that's cool. That's
yeah, we
cool.
have a lot of OGs, which is fun.
We got to shout out Joey Bada Boom accusing us of being virgins. The two guys that actually have children. So take that one, Joey. We actually have offspring to prove that we can actually procreate. And we're family guys, dude. So sorry to bust your bubble, Joey Bada Boom, in the comments. But yeah, we're pretty happy. We got families. We got like a real life. So this is good stuff. But good old Joey. Okay, we got
Joey
another question
Bada Boom,
popping in.
what a name.
What's that?
It's a Joey Bada Boom. What a name.
What a name, dude. He always does it. Does it great. And thank you, Witters. Yes, Witters always coming in with the heat. I'm not even gonna bring up some of the stuff these people are talking about. But here, we got another question from Wolfie. How do you manage to balance things? Do you test insane builds and interactions before shipping?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely like try to. There's always things that like interactions that like we don't fully figure out until like it's out on like the market, and then we have to figure it out. So what we do is we have like internal testing, like team testing on things, and we try to like catch like obvious bugs and like really bad balance issues. And then we have like a community testing group called like Testing Friends, and that's where we try to get like people that play the game every day to come in and test and see if there's like issues and stuff like that. Um, and then we launch it to the public. But like we're a live operation game, so we're always patching things, changing things, improving things. Like today, yesterday we had like nerf knights because knights were just like stupidly overpowered. We just kind of like tweaked them a little hard, and when the community got a hold of it, they got really really strong. Yeah, QQL. Are you still in your QQL kicks? Yeah. Here's the problem: is you like. I make my best trades when I'm a trader, or I make my maybe worst trades when I fall in love. The QQL thing was, I was just like, man, this is really cool. I've always wanted something from Tyler Hobbs. I love like the kind of infinite potential. Like a lot of people don't know, I loved Botto. Botto was this like,
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
remember that? Like
I
the
love that
community
airdrop. I know that. I love that airdrop. Thank you, Bada.
real nice. But like I love art and I love like the possibilities for like stuff like this. So when I put my trader cap on, I was like, okay, like this is a no-brainer buy at like 14. People will uh, get it up to like 20 plus. So if I was like just trying to like trade this thing, then I would have just like, sold out at 20 plus, right? But like if you do the math, it's like after fees and taxes, it's like, okay, then I flipped this thing for like 2 ETH. So it's like I'm just gonna hold on to this fully expecting that there's a potential for it to go back to mint price, and there's a potential for it to even go below mint price. But like this is one of my few things where I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna buy this on like a 3-year time horizon. And if the world doesn't completely implode on us over the next 3 years, it may end up being very smart. But one thing I can tell you is I will not be minting the QQL. Do not trust myself with that.
That's smart, dude. I mean, this one came out not like I think it was in the last week, and this is like one of my favorites so far. But I mean, people may know that like my thesis on this. I like continue to just say it over and over. But like, I would agree with you. Do not mint. Like everybody that thinks they're minting Grails, like okay, number 129. This one I think it looks awesome. It's cool. Like
Like
there's the ones that were minted.
the horizon effect on that's really cool. Like
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're staring at right into the sun, the horizon, it looks beautiful. But like I get people that minted on day one because that's like, okay, it's the historic a day one mint. You can call it that. But like people, I don't think you realize like how long eternity is, like how long, like an infinite number of outputs. And so like if you by definition, I don't either they're all grails or none of them are grails, right? Because you can just create as many as you can create billions of these until
and
you
they
find one
probably
that you love.
like algorithmic bots that are like tweaking
dude
QQL.
dude K Dean is like I think he literally has a machine running on the background that's just running them constantly, and then every once in a while he just looks over, and if he finds one that he likes he saves it. Like I literally think he has not stopped since QQL came out. So I do too. I think it's a really cool project. I think it's beautiful art. But like I would not actually mint your an output that you generate. I wouldn't do it because there's just an infinite supply of amazing potential coming out. So the mint pass is what's gonna, you know, is what's going to always, I think, be the play if you want to trade or even just hold it long term. Everybody loves optionality, dude. And
Yeah.
and why commit to something when you can actually have, like, you can still generate the outputs, and like you can right click save your output if you really like it, and then
Totally.
just hold that mint pass for somebody that like is dying to be part of the
Thing
collection,
is,
right?
yeah, I would hold on to the mint pass, and if I was ever like do a mint, I would probably like OTC buy a seed from someone, like a really cool one. I'm sure 3 years from now there'll be like a marketplace for that.
Yeah, yeah, there will be. And I mean, yeah, even just the idea of working, we've talked about this, like working with an artist, that
I
that
love that one you just
they're
had.
the ones that that actually generate an output. Like they tweeted this one out the other day. This one looks like a moonbird. They tagged
Oh,
moonbirds in
that's
it.
cool.
Thought that one was cool. Looked really
Yeah.
good. Okay, so we've talked about QQL a little bit. Are you like who are some of your favorite artists? I know you're not like a big into the art scene,
Yeah.
but like what art do you like sit there and be like, oh, I do like that. I kind of wish I owned one of those, you know?
I got to shout out Brian Brinkman. I love that guy. I think he does
Oh
some
man.
stuff because that's one of the few pieces I've actually seen in real life at an installation when we were at NFT NYC. And I thought like the art looked like super cool. Um, uh, like when it was, because it was like a huge frame vertical, like it was
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
like top down. I forget the name of the piece. But I love Mad Dog Jones, man. Huge Mad Dog Jones guy. Like, I wish he would like have some, something, different, coming out or something like that. Just absolutely loved Mad Dog Jones. Um, there was one artist that I absolutely fell in love with on Super Rare, and maybe one day I'll collect one of her pieces. I forget her name, but she made these like it was almost like futuristic, like looking like cities, but they were like built in these like crazy shapes. Like there was one that like basically like was like Earth, like there was like trees growing everywhere. Let me
Interesting.
yeah, let me try to find her name, but it was so cool. I just love like futuristic kind of stuff. Like that's why I like Mad Dog Jones, right? Like I like that stuff that like makes me think of like, Tokyo 50 years from now, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, you can't go wrong. Anything Tokyo, Japanese related. It's just I'm a sucker for all that art. Witters in the comments is talking about Jake Freed, who I also think is really cool. He was featured in Grails 2 with Proof Collective. That was a super cool this animated piece that's really awesome. Dude, this has been great. I guess I've taken up a good chunk of your day, but I want to hear like some parting thoughts from a man so seasoned as yourself. If somebody's wanting to jump in, whether it's on the art side or even just NFTs in general, what would your advice be to people that are just getting started, or maybe are in the middle of the bull run or bear run rather, and are getting a little worn down? What would your advice be to all of us and to myself? I need it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to be like really, really, really patient. I think like humans naturally, like we think that like a short period of time feels like a long period of time. You know what I mean? Like this bear market has like felt like a long period of time, but it's really been like 6 months. When
Yeah.
you hear about like other bear markets out there like lasting like 2 years, it's kind of like, you're running a marathon, which I could never do, but like in your a quarter of the way through, like, what are you going to tell yourself? Like probably don't sprint, right? Like, probably try to stay hydrated, probably like check on your vitals, right? And I feel like a lot of that like applies here. So I think a lot like there's a lot of money to be made if you're willing to trade in and out of things. I think if you're trying to hold things for long periods of time, I think patience is the best play. Like if you think about there was a real opportunity in June. We've talked about it with like how cheap crypto punks were, how cheap you could have gotten like a Clone X, some of these things for like 6K and just really cheap prices, and they've really appreciated. So I really think like you got to be like super patient, especially if you're being an investor, but like also at the same time like have fun, explore, and also like expand the potential of like what you think is interesting, because like the stuff of the next cycle will not be the stuff of the previous cycle. You know what I mean? And a lot of it will be just like ENS domains. And I always try to tell myself that like you have to be open to new ideas. And then like new ideas come out, like the numbers, and I shit on them, right? Like I own other ENSs, but like I shit on the numbers thing. And it ended up being just like a massive, not just trade, it's really like now an investment with how long that these things have been at really strong prices. And I just didn't open my mind to that, right? And I think in art, and I think in all NFTs, there's going to be these new things coming out, and that your first reaction is you're going to hate it, because when humans don't get something, they don't like it, right? It's
Yeah.
an instinctual thing. We're like, hey, this is new and weird, like back off, you know what I mean? And I think like the real opportunities of the next year or two will be the things that make you feel like that at first, you know what I mean? So we have to like really try to like adjust our biases going forward.
Dude, love that advice. I completely agree. This has been an honor, King Kix. Thank you so much for joining, dude.
Get a hobby, go pick up golf, or go like write, become like a short story writer, voraciously read books, like find other
Start an art podcast, you know what I mean? Like do what it takes to enjoy yourself. I totally agree.
yeah,
Dude, thank you so much for joining. This has been a pleasure. Everybody, you all know King Kix. He is a legend. You are already following him on Twitter, I'm sure, but if not, check him out. And thanks again, guys. We will see you guys soon.
much
Later.
later.